Hello, everybody, and welcome to a matinee show of Machtails from the Cantina Live. Happy summer to you guys. Hope everyone is well. And welcome those that are going to be watching this on the playback because it is 3 p.m. Central. We never do a show this early. Hey, it is 5 o'clock somewhere, that's for sure. It's not even 5 o'clock in Florida yet, but it's summer, right? And I got the day off to some degree. I have my show producer and brother Matthew Rooney is going to be joining me the show today as we talk about Star Wars recasting. Yes, this is the recasting special here. I know you guys have gotten a little tired of me talking about the recasting in Andor with Benjamin Bratt, Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa. We're going to get into that a little bit because there's not a whole hell of a lot that I have to say, but man, did that really spark the idea of this program we have for you today. I got to give a big shout out to my Patreon producers. Look, the content on Patreon is exclusive to the people that join and become part of the MFTC community. There, you can join for free and get free access for a very, very limited time. Just follow the link in the description of this YouTube video, and that'll take you there, and it'll give you, 4 or 5 years of content that goes all the way back many, many, many years. A big shout out, though, and special shout out to the producers of the show and everybody that's been providing financial contributions to the programming for a long, long time. You know, shows like this, they're free to the public. The YouTube shows, Machtails Live. Here we are, number 71 already. And there's a lot of time and effort. You can ask my show producer, Matthew Rooney. He will tell you how much time and effort that he puts into it. And I equally put in as much. And, you know, you guys are getting that for free. So the people that are contributing to it financially, I thank you from the people that get a chance to watch this programming free. Here we are at the end of June already. And I want to raise my glass because brother and producer Rich Brendel is not with us today, but he always does the cheer and a beer segment. I want to raise my glass to Diego Luna for what he's done and what he's said and the entertainment that he's given us on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And we'll get into that here in just a minute, but I'm raising my glass to you, Mr. Diego Luna. Thank you. Thank you for not being silent and standing on the platform. And as Rage Against the Machine said, fight the war, fuck the norm. And that's exactly what he did last week. Now, I don't want to get too political. I don't want to dive into that. I want to steer you guys in the direction here. I'm going to bring Brother Matthew Rooney on, and I'm going to steer you guys in the direction to definitely take a look at the YouTube clips on Jimmy Kimmel's page because he had Alan Tudyk on last week, and I'm going to fuck up her first name, but I think I got her last name right. Adria Arjona, who was Bix in Andor. And, man, I feel like there was a lot of Star Wars love this week. You guys might have seen the Stormtrooper photo of Alan Tudyk and Diego Luna on the show. I was going to say Times Square, but that's New York. This is down. What do they call that, Matthew? You're a former Los Angeles native. What do they call that area down there?
I did watch it, but I didn't see where they were, so I'm not sorry.
It's by the by the Chinese theater. By the Chinese theater.
Oh, like on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
Yeah, over there. You know, where they always have the characters out there asking for money. I've never seen cosplayers ask for money except for there to get photos with. But yeah, they did some really funny, lighthearted skits with that. Speaking about that part of the world, in the future, in the near future, we're going to see Star Wars Celebration out that way. Obviously, for the 50th anniversary, Chinese theater, a big part of that. But anyways, Matthew, let's get in. I got to get on track here. I got to get back on track. But again, Diego Luna was fantastic on Jimmy Kimmel. Let's get into this and stir the pot here and bring it down to a Star Wars, more of a Star Wars note. Hey, speaking of Star Wars note, before we move on, I need to say that when I was watching Diego Luna on late night TV, man, you know what? He is very, very close to the actor. He's very, very close to the character, I feel like. And I picked this up. We kind of talked about Celebration Japan, and he was spreading some love there. And I could just tell that he has this revolution inside him that he's letting out now as an actor, but also, mirroring Cassian Andor. Is that your takeaway, or am I talking crazy here?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that comes from just his status as, somebody who's, migrated to this country and has to and has had to go through certain circumstances, and he's very close to people who, especially at this moment, are really being oppressed and are afraid to go outside and to do their jobs and things like that. And so I think because of where he comes from, it puts him in that kind of a position better than other people in this country. So yeah, I get the same impression too.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you rewind history and you look back, there were a lot of people in the late 60s, early 70s, there were some black athletes and black musicians that refused to, join like the Black Panther Party. And they were in a position to speak up against what was going on, but they didn't. And then you have people like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali who became angry and frustrated at those kind of, those actors, those musicians that did not speak up. So we see Diego Luna at least speaking up and letting people know what's on his mind, and it's nice to see that there is a.
Well, yeah, and I mean it can be very frightening, especially when your livelihood could be on the line. Like he could face repercussions from that. Like it might affect his ability to get jobs. Hopefully not, because of the roles he typically plays. I think people who cast those roles are probably on the same page with him, but it's hard when you have a comfortable living and you're on a certain path to to rock the boat and make waves, because you could endanger all of that. And he has teenage children too, so it would also affect them if things went bad. So I think it's it's very brave of him to do that.
Well, I think another thought here, and the train of thoughts are rolling here. One of the things that kind of crossed my mind is, when you're in that position and you speak up or you don't speak up, some people get offended or they get frustrated by both of those actions, right? So it's really up to the individual. But my thought, we're seeing a lot of division here. I try to tune in and drop out and just get away from that as much as I can. But I'm wondering too, like, what about the Star Wars fans that don't agree with him, and let's say they loved Andor, and then Diego Luna speaks his mind. We saw Mark Hamill do that, and now we're getting kind of deep and heavy. This is usually more for the Machtails from the Cantina podcast, but again, it's something that it's hard to ignore. But it's like, a lot of people got pissed off from Mark Hamill when what he said at the end of last year. I'm not getting that hate though from the Star Wars fans right now about Diego Luna.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it's still fresh, but I would say as well, if people liked Andor, they're probably on the same, if they really liked it, like I do, it's like my favorite Star Wars show they've done. They're probably on the same page as him politically too, because that's what the whole show is about, really, is opposing injustice like that and opposing, fascistic type, organizations. So I think anybody who really likes it and recognizes that is not going to be surprised or opposed to what Diego Luna, and I would say his message, at least, on the monologue, that like his first monologue he did on Kimmel, was, I thought it was pretty mild, and he was talking about, just accepting people, and he wasn't calling for anybody to be, put out of office or for violence at all. It was all just, just accept us for who we are and appreciate who we are. That's a positive message, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things that I think is hard for anybody to argue with, no matter what side you're on, he in his first monologue, he said, with or without papers, immigrants have contributed $1 billion in taxes. That's a lot of fucking money, man. What I mean? $1 billion is a lot of money, even in the big picture of all the taxes that we pay here in the United States. And it's very hard to disagree with that. So if people are making contributions to our society in a positive way, and not that I'm saying paying your taxes is a positive thing. It's not something that I love to do year after year, but in the big picture, I don't believe this country could operate if people did not pay their taxes. So you take a community of people that's paying $1 billion worth of taxes. It's kind of like, wow, okay, there's some contribution here. Going back to your comment about the show Andor in general, I did realize too that Alan Tudyk had kind of mirrored that. That he said, wow, Andor is very, very close to real life. And I believe that one actor that you had seen that you said you didn't care for too much, but you watched him anyway. I think he kind of said the same thing about the show.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I did watch the interview. He said he said the bad thing about Andor, which I thought was funny, was that you watch that and then you watch what's going on in the news, and it's like Andor but with bad actors and with no special effects, So it's like, why can't they just show Andor, because it's the same thing anyway and it's better.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hey guys, thanks for listening to this top of the show here. We're going to get into some Star Wars recasting now. You know what? Let's just start off the bat here with with who started really all this. Bail Organa's character. We have the recasting here, right? I understand that Benjamin Bratt was available. I still don't think they look anything like each other. I think when people say that, to me, there's a little bit of ignorance there. But hey, to each his own. I don't see these guys necessarily like you put them side to side. I can maybe see a smidge, but we've already seen Jimmy Smits quite a bit in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and Kenobi. I do believe that they were in a situation, but hey, it all comes down to money. This wasn't a money thing. They could have maybe went and borrowed some time somewhere and pulled this off. Maybe was it that important to them to get Jimmy Smits in, or was it more important to them to have a more convenient schedule? I don't know. You know what? We're going to grade these by saying, come on, or amen to that. To me, this is a total, come on, man. I mean, this should not have happened. They had plenty of time to fucking think this through. And it is what it is, though. It is what it is. I would have rather seen a different character. We're going to get into the recasting of there's a lot of different types of recasting. There's this here, or we'll get into the Jedi. A lot of those Jedi characters from Attack of the Clones were born out of kind of starting a new character, because they tried to recast and they're like, they look nothing like the original actor that played Adigalia, for example. So let's create Stas Ali. And I think they should have went a different way with this. Star Wars is definitely no stranger to creating new characters. I mean, I think they do that a lot. I think in the past, I feel like they should maybe, keep the story going with former characters. Instead, they're like, you know what? Let's keep going. We'll put a new character in. I would have rather seen that than a recast to a classic PT character. Matthew, what do you grade in this one here?
I mean, I wish Jimmy Smits could have been in it because it would have been much better. But I do kind of, I take issue, I think, with calling it recasting. Like, to me, you have to take each film or series on its own. So like to me, when you say recast, my thinking is that somebody was cast for the show or the movie, and then they had to be removed for whatever reason, and then they had to cast a new person. So if Jimmy Smits was never cast in the first place to be in Andor, then to me it's not a recast. I don't know the history. Maybe I'm not following Star Wars news like I used to, so I don't know what the situation was, whether he was or whether he just was never available. So they went with a total, different actor from the beginning when they were doing season 2 of the show. But to me, it's only like there's only one recast that I can think of, which I do have an image of that we'll get to later, where there was actually somebody cast in a role and then they had to remove them and replace them with somebody else because of time constraints. But I mean, for me, with this one, I do wish it could have been Jimmy Smits, but at the same time, this is a big undertaking, 2 seasons and, how many hours of stuff here. And the Bail Organa character is not, I would say, one of the main characters. He does have a good amount of screen time and has lines and all that. But I would, you could run into a situation where one of the bigger actors or characters, or, not bigger, but one of the ones that has a more central role might not be available. And as you know, there's just so much that goes into making a film or a show like this. And I'd rather have the show with a different actor than not have the show at all, which is what could happen if you're, going to hold out for everybody.
Yeah, you know what? We can agree to disagree with that. I would have rather seen a new character, and I still think that Bail Organa is a bigger character than people make him out to be. But again, it's my personal opinion. I think we can do a whole Bail Organa episode here on Mocktails from the Cantina. Before we move on from Bail, though, this one here. This is a very, very interesting one. So there was an activity sticker book that came out during the summer of 1999, and there was this guy, Adrian Dunbar is his name, the guy on the right who originally was Bail Organa. Then when I did some more research, I found out that they had changed his name because we don't see him in episode 1. All his stuff was completely removed. So he technically, Bail Organa was already recasted, Jimmy Smits being number 2, but they've changed his character's name. So this is no longer Bail Organa. It's Bail Antilles. Right. And they did not change that until after, I don't know when they changed it, but it was obviously after episode 1 came out. And
I might be remembering wrong, but doesn't Palpatine in episode 1 say Bail Antilles as one of his, like he was talking about the people who are, running for the chancellor position or whatever? Yes. Doesn't he say Bail Antilles?
He does say Bail Antilles. So they were able to kind of clean up this situation a little easier. One, because they never shown Bail Organa, and then they mentioned Bail Antilles. So we got 2 Bails in the universe. We never hear Bail Organa's name in episode 1, and then that we never see him, so they can change his character's name for the EU, canon or not. I don't know. I don't know, but that's the story. That's a story on him. Now, moving on, sticking to the Organa family, we have Brea Organa on the left side. I got to say, these are both attractive women, but that photo on the left, it just drop dead stunning. On the left there, that is Rebecca Jackson Mendoza, who is a pop musician. I believe she was a pop musician in the late 90s, early 2000s. Australian actress. So we see this a lot. Episode 1, filmed in the UK. Episode 2 and 3, filmed in Australia. We have this plethora of Australian actors that are now moving into the fold simply because the prequels now were being shot in that part of the world. So this one, I would say this is an amen to that. Simply because we don't really see Brea Organa that much in Revenge of the Sith. We only see a little bit of her. So, and the girl on the right, Simone Kissel, that she's a big actress, what I found out. So she was probably more right for the role. And I think this is not just recasting somebody. This is, we have a character portrayal, which we see on the left, and then we need somebody to act out, an entire season of Kenobi. We're going to give it to the one that probably is going to just essentially be a better actress. So I think this works. I don't know if there's necessarily a lot of resemblance there, but I don't believe that is necessarily important because the shot we see of Brea in Revenge of the Sith is not only quick, but it's not a close up as well. You have any comments on this one?
I mean, I don't have that much of a feeling about it. I mean, not only was there not a close up, but she also didn't have any lines or anything. And like, to me, that's kind of the dividing line a lot of the times between, like in an acting performance, is whether a character has lines and like how many lines of dialogue they actually have in the film too. And so it's one thing to have, to like be present in the scene and to have a certain look, but having to have, acting chops. And I'm not saying this other person doesn't, because I don't know anything about her, but they would want to have somebody who they felt could care. And it's an important role, it's Leia's mother. And so, it's an important role to fill. And it's also like 9 or 10 years later too. So she's aged, so she doesn't have to look the same.
I'm going to guess the girl on she doesn't have to look the same. This could be a little bit of an older version. I think that's the big difference, right, between Bail Organa, Jimmy Smits, and Benjamin Bratt, is we already have this pretty solidly developed character. But in this case, we don't even hear Brea's name in Revenge of the Sith, and there's no speaking lines. So I feel like this was okay. I was okay with this. Not that it matters if I'm okay with it or not. I mean, you guys, everybody's got their own opinion on this. All right, so the next one, moving on. This is going back to the OT. There's a little bit of a story here. Guy on the right, the late, great Colin Higgins, who I had the chance to meet in Los Angeles. I don't even believe I met him. I think my cousin was the one that got his autograph for me because I was busy promoting The Force Among Us in LA at the convention. Guy on the right, known as Fake Wedge. There's been a little bit of like, hey, that's a negative tone, Fake Wedge, because he had a line. In my opinion, it took me a long time to even really realize that was Wedge. He kind of resembles him in a roundabout way because we never see Wedge until he's Dennis Lawson with his helmet off. So we can get away with that. Now, the guy on the right, his scene was in the film. He was fired. He was fired because, not because he was, drinking or, doing bad things. He could not remember his lines. He could not remember his lines. Could you imagine losing the part of Wedge because you couldn't remember your lines?
Yeah.
I mean, do your fucking homework at that point, right?
Yeah, he could be at ICC-Con being interviewed by you right now.
Exactly. And the thing is, here we go. Dennis Lawson, you cannot picture anybody else, than him when it comes to Wedge. Except Colin Higgins did a good job in the briefing room with the helmet off. Now, here's a very, very strange thing, too. Some of you guys probably know this. For those of you that don't, it actually took technically 3 people to form Wedge. Colin Higgins on the right, Dennis Lawson on the left, and David Arncum. He did the voice of Wedge, which is kind of strange. It's not Dennis Lawson's voice, at least in the first film. I think David might have did all the voice. I don't know if David Arncum is credited with doing Wedge Antilles' voice for all 3 movies, but they also bring him back as an Easter egg. He is you can hear his voice in Rogue One as well. So that's a little bit of a deeper cut. But anyways, recasting on this, I would have to say amen to that simply because, the guy couldn't remember his lines. What else are you going to do? All right, this is a little bit of a different type of recasting here. All right, we have, again, 3 people making up this character. We have Clive Revel, late great Clive Revel, who was the voice of the Emperor in 1980's Empire Strikes Back. We have the monkey, who I forget his name, but man, look at those eyes.
It's
those eyes are stunning. And Marjorie Eaton was the actress with the face. So they took the fucking monkey's eyes, put them on Marjorie's face, and then they did the Clive Revel voice. To me, that is just amazing. Now, recast. Okay, we all know the story about this. The monkey, the girl, and Clive were replaced by Ian McDermott. Here we go. Now, I'm okay with this. This is an amen to that in this situation. One, because Ian McGregor does I said Ewan McGregor. Ian McDermott does a very, very good job as the Emperor, going back to when we first see him in Return of the Jedi, and it only made sense. This is kind of cleaning up the mess, right? Because Ian McDermott wasn't casted for Empire. So this is more of a fix recast, not a schedule or budget kind of situation here.
And it came, in 2004, like many, like decades after 2 decades later. So it wasn't recast. It's just the special edition.
Well, to me, it's still kind of technically a recast, but I think it's recasting to tell the story using the person that we've known as the Emperor. It's different. You know what? You have the photo. Here's another one. The photo of, this is the controversial one, Sebastian Shaw being replaced by Anakin Skywalker.
This is the same time period replacing.
Now, would you call, people weren't mad about the monkey getting the boot, and being replaced with Ian McDermott. I don't know if I have any feelings on this. It's, you don't want to erase history. I think, the confusing thing about this was Anakin, older, Sebastian Shaw, isn't that when he was redeemed, when Luke took the mask off? So it makes sense that we see the ghost here. Instead, we see a ghost from before he told Anakin Skywalker, before he told Obi-Wan Kenobi that he hated him. You got any feelings on this one?
Yeah, I felt like because this was for the DVD release in 2004, and I felt like the reason why people didn't like this but didn't mind the Emperor was because of, like, a lot of people didn't like Hayden's performance in Attack of the Clones, and so they were already, like, annoyed with him for being this whiny teenager, and then they saw him here, and so that kind of compounded the situation. As far as, like, trying to get into the technicality of Force ghosts, I don't think, they're ghosts, and so I don't think it has to adhere to when they died necessarily. Now we've had, the Ahsoka show where you've got Anakin popping up as a Force ghost again, and I think it more has to do with the eye of the person looking at it, But
sure.
they're ghosts. They don't necessarily experience time the same way that living things do. So who's to say they couldn't appear in different ways to different people at different times? So to me, it is. I mean, it's not a big deal. I like Hayden. I've always liked Hayden's performance, and so I liked seeing the replacement, even though I did grow up with the original version.
I think that's why it didn't bother me, because I always liked Hayden, so it wasn't something that really bothered me. Here's the thing I just noticed as we're talking and we're looking at the year on that photo. I did not realize that this came out before Revenge of the Sith came out.
Yeah, because this was the DVD release, and they had the bonus disc that had like some sneak previews of Revenge of the Sith. Like they were showing the behind the scenes on the lightsaber fight between him and Obi-Wan. So it was like the first time we were seeing Anakin with his like full, Jedi hairdo and everything.
Yeah, well, if this was a trivia question, I would have definitely failed that. I don't believe we have a photo of it, but one thing that kind of fits into all this is Declan Mulholland, who played the original live-action Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope. This is kind of a similar situation to the monkey being replaced by Ian McDiarmid. Declan was obviously replaced because Jabba the Hutt became an alien, for a lack of a better term, where Declan was a human. So, again, kind of cleaning up the mess to tell the story in a more cinematic way. I think that might be the word I'm looking for. All right, what do we got next down here? What do we got next in your photo spread? Okay, this is a good one. This is Captain Antilles. 3 different people to play Captain Antilles in the live action. For those of you guys that are watching this on the playback going, oh, he's missing out on all this animated shit. You know what? We're not talking animated right now. We're talking live action, baby. Live action. So Rowan Nichols on the right, we see him again, no speaking lines. No, because I went back and watched this after Jimmy Smits was recasted. And Rowan Nichols does not have any speaking lines. But we know it's Captain Antilles. The guy on the left, the original Captain Antilles, obviously they're wearing completely different uniforms. We never see, I bet you if you put the proper uniform on Rowan Nichols, you might be able to pass, of him looking like we see in Rogue One. What you see in Rogue One, and this actor's name escapes me right now, but that looks pretty dead on to the original one. Obviously younger. I don't know.
Well, it's supposed to be, the Revenge of the Sith is 19 years before this, and then these two, like this and the original movie, are the same time, like the same day even. Maybe.
Yeah, so I don't know. You know what? I don't like that. I think they could have used an older gentleman to play Captain Antilles. I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Looking at that back to back.
I don't know. I mean, he looks pretty similar to me.
I think it works. Yeah, I don't want to be nitpicky, especially when it comes to Rogue One.
Yeah.
So I would say amen to that. Amen to that. I think they did a good job on that. All right. After Captain Antilles here, who do we got here? What do we got next?
So I added this last minute because this to me is the only real recast. That I can remember. I guess except for Wedge's guy being recast because he couldn't do his lines, but the original actor is supposed to be Dryden Voss was Michael Williams, and then they, the whole production went off the rails, and they had to bring in Ron Howard, and they had to do a bunch of new stuff, and that actor wasn't available anymore, so they recast Dryden Voss as with Paul Bettany and made the character totally different. So to me, this is like the real recast, where within the space of one production, they had to replace the actor.
Okay, so this character, his original scene, he was originally filmed by a different actor altogether, and then they essentially just reshot
not only that, but the original character was like a CGI character, so he was like, I think it was motion capture. I don't remember exactly, but it was like a creature. It wasn't going to look human, and then they like that actor got some other gig and was working on that. So when they went to like do all the reshooting to fix stuff, they couldn't use him, so they just brought in Paul Bettany, and then they redid the character as a more humanoid person.
I think that's a good point. And again, we're going, you say CGI character originally, and we see this with, obviously we saw with Jabba the Hutt, but it changed completely. One character that was completely replaced, I don't think we have a photo of him, but Wayne Pigham played Tarkin at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and I believe that worked for that moment. Now, is Wayne Pigham good enough to act as Tarkin in Rogue One? Or was somebody else good enough? We've seen CGI now replace in this situation. I was unaware of that. And then we see, the CGI Tarkin replace Wayne Pigham from Revenge of the Sith. Which, I don't know. I think that kind of works. Because we have a character actor, somebody that doesn't speak, somebody that looks the part, somebody that might not be able to carry that character in a live action acting environment. But as cosplay and making a cameo in a movie, yeah, you can get away with that. You might have to recast in that situation. Oh, God, speaking about people that played many parts. I don't know. This, you know what? Look, if you got the helmet on, you can get away with it. But I think the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and this is a confusing recast, and maybe, Matthew, maybe to you this isn't necessarily recast, but Daniel Logan plays young Boba Fett. We understand that the clones grow up and they become Tamora Morrison, Jango Fett.
Mm-hmm.
We see Tamora Morrison play Jango and then essentially recast Daniel Logan as Boba Fett. Now, I do understand there's that age group because I'm like, how come Daniel Logan couldn't reprise his role as Boba Fett? Would that have worked? I don't know. If the clones don't look like that, they're supposed to look more like Jango. That it starts getting into a storytelling thing at that point. To me, okay, Jeremy is the fan favorite for Who is Boba Fett, right? We have the special edition, Mark Austin, who I should invite him on the show. I'm pretty active with him on Facebook. Dickie Beer. There was actually another one, too, that's not listed here. That was another stunt guy for Boba Fett. But anyways,
and
Matthew,
we interviewed John Morton, right?
Yeah, we interviewed John Morton. He had that scene. It's simply, I wouldn't necessarily call this a recasting situation. I mean, if I am, then I'm like, looking for shit to complain about. I believe all these people playing Boba Fett works, but it's taken me a while to process the whole Tem as Boba when Daniel was Boba. Daniel's older now. Anyways, now we're starting to get really nitpicky about this shit.
Well, and you could say the same thing about Mandalorian. I mean, he's played by 2 or 3 different people. As we know, we interviewed Brendan Wayne, and then you've also got, of course, Pedro doing it as well. So, like when there's a mask involved, it's different.
And then Lateef Crowder, I believe his last name is Crowder, but Lateef, he is the guy that, like, when Brendan couldn't do his, like, Brendan, when we interviewed him, he's actually on one of the last podcast episodes that I released on Patreon. When we talked to him, he said that he's not a stunt guy, but he did everything that he could, and what he couldn't do, that was when Lateef had come in and did the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting for him. But yeah, again, it's the same thing. All right, now, is this recasting? To me, this is not. And we need to make an example of this. But these people are being casted to play the younger. Obviously, Harrison Ford needed to be recasted. Han Solo needed to be recasted as Harrison Ford going back in time. Is this considered a recast in your opinion?
I mean, I don't consider 99% of these recasting, but no, I mean, I do like this, and I do want to say it because I feel like Lucasfilm has been really precious with some of the original characters, and like with Luke, for instance, they're not hiring somebody else to play younger Luke, like they're trying to do it with, you know, different kinds of technology. And to me, like Star Wars should last, you know, for a long time. It should be like Shakespeare, where it goes on like for centuries. And so there's going to be a future where there's going to be other actors who will play these roles and they'll be reprised. And like, that's how good stories are. Like if you think about Robin Hood, or again, like Shakespeare's things, or, you know, Mark Twain, like all those kinds of things. Those are stories that should go on for a very long time. And I'd like to see different actors take on these roles and play them and perform them. And like in my opinion, the character should be bigger than any one actor. Obviously, you know, Harrison Ford as Han Solo is maybe the worst example because he's such a big part of that character. But I think going forward, they should, you know, have newer actors. Like I watched the Star Trek stuff too, and they have a newer series where, you know, it takes place before the original series. And so they've got like a new Spock and a new, you know, Kirk. And I love that show. I think it's great. And I think even the old time fans that are watching it think that it's good too. Like even the ones that would normally complain think it's good. And so I would like to see them do more of this, like have younger people taking on the roles and giving it a different life, you know, for a new generation of fans. So that way the story can keep going.
Yeah, I think in order for it to live like in a Shakespearean way, I think you're going to have it. I mean, there's not going to be another way to do it, you know? So God, we'll be talking about this in the future. We'll be talking about this in the future. Okay, who else? Okay, well, let's stick on this. All right, I was going to say let's stick on that topic, but you know what? We can bounce back and forth. This is a very, very interesting one. As a huge fan of the Jedi from the prequels, especially the Phantom Menace, I got really nerdy about this shit back in the day. And the story goes, obviously, Heathcliff and Adigalia are from Phantom Menace. And then we see Agent Kohler and Stas Ali, who resemble them, but they resemble by the species, let's say. But the way that I understood it was, I'm going to pronounce her first name because I can't pronounce her second name, but Lily, at the bottom right, she, who played Stas Ali in Attack of the Clones, she had went in for the recast of Adigalia. George said, you know what? You look nothing like her. Now you're going to be her cousin. Oh, no, go back. You got to go back. We got to stick on the Jedi spread. So he said, okay, look nothing like her. You're going to be Stas Ali. New character. Same with Agent Kohler, which makes sense. Now, these two CGI characters, Pablo Gil and Coleman, I'm not even going to pronounce that last name. Okay, it's good to understand that we have two Jedi of the same race, but CGI replacement is fine with me. I mean, Pablo Gil must have been killed at the Battle of Geonosis.
Right.
And Plo Koon was recasted. He's got a mask. That works. That's fine. Stacey Tin, who we don't have a photo of, he was replaced, and he looks a lot different. The mask, the face of Stacey Tin in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, he looks like he didn't care about himself. His face is really fat. It changes how he looked. Con Bonfils, the stuntman that played Sissy Tin in The Phantom Menace, he had passed away, but not until after he was recasted. This one bothers me the most. Stas Ali was replaced.
More than Bail Organa?
You know what? I would say it's equal to.
Really?
It's equal to. This next one here. So this is Stas Ali. Going on to the next photo. Okay, and somebody didn't do their fucking homework here, because Matthew, you added the photo in on the right.
Right. Yeah.
That is her. That is Nina Fallon, who was not black, on the left. Okay, this is a visual effects artist that was CGI blackface to look like how she does on the right, and that is the same character. Like, okay, you know what? That's a total fucking come on. You know, why not create a different character instead of making the poor girl that's in the middle, Lily? I can't pronounce her last name. And she was kind of offended by this. She's like, "Look, I didn't get to reprise my role, but my role was replaced by Nina Fallon, who looks nothing like me." And they used CGI blackface as what we essentially see on the right. This fucking bothers me a lot. I've talked about this on an early episode of the podcast back a couple years ago. I'm not okay with this. This one makes me angry because the Benjamin Brad, Jimmy Smith situation. Okay, you're saying it's a time issue. It pisses me off still, but this is kind of like offensive at this point.
So I'm kind of confused. I'm kind of confused. I don't understand. I haven't like looked into this, but I mean the photo on the right looks like the same person as the woman on the left. I mean, it's obviously the same person, but the one in the middle is somebody else.
Person on the right, person on the left, same people.
So
supposed to be the character in the middle.
Okay.
But if you look at the character on the right, she's got blackface on. She's not. Her skin tone is completely changed there. You know,
it doesn't look that dark to me, I guess.
You know, and I actually got that. I got the right photo. I got that autographed. I got that same photo from Celebration 4 autographed. But anyways, you know what? I'm even more fucking mad because the person that did their homework should have had, if they did their homework, the photo on the right that you have should be the one that's in the middle because that's
right.
her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this like AI at its worst?
Well, they definitely weren't doing AI back then. Oh, you're saying today, but putting the pictures together.
Yeah, maybe. Putting the pictures together. I'm like, come on, man. I mean, you know, if you don't fucking know this, you know, and I hate throwing people under the bus. But when something that already bothers me turns into this, you know, that's like saying happy birthday to two people in that photo. That's essentially what it's doing. This doesn't get any better than this. We don't even really have to talk about this. This was beautiful from the get-go.
Yeah. Well, and is that why it gets a pass? Is because Ewan McGregor is so good? Like, is that why? Like, if people liked Hayden more, or if people liked Alden Ehrenreich more, like, would it get more of a pass because it's Ewan and he's great?
Yeah, I think so. Because you never hear anybody, even the craziest, wackiest, fucking, you know, unrealistic, unreasonable Star Wars fan isn't going to argue with us. You know, like this is like, okay, nobody complained about this. Nobody ever complained about this. But yeah, you're right. I think, you know, it gets a pass because, all right, sticking with the Jedi, this is kind of funny because people were so fucking pissed off that Ki-Adi-Mundi was in an Acolyte. I believe because it didn't line up with the timeline. I was mad because Silas Carson wasn't Ki-Adi-Mundi. I'm like, he was Ki-Adi-Mundi in the prequels. You got to bring him back. When you see a photo like that side by side, it works. But I know this one was a controversial one for a lot of people. Matthew, did you have any complaints with this?
I mean, I didn't even notice Ki-Adi-Mundi in the show, to be honest, because I wasn't I did watch The Acolyte, but I didn't like it that much, so I didn't even notice he was in it. And to be honest, I don't really care that much about this one. Like it's a small character that's got a bunch of makeup on, and like to me, it's not that big of a deal if it's a different person.
So I thought you did like The Acolyte. You said you were not a fan.
No, I didn't like it that much. Like I started off kind of like the first 3 or 4 episodes, I thought it was okay, but then it just really took a downturn, and I really didn't like it, and I'll probably never watch it again because it was just awful.
Wow,
by the end.
I would have thought the opposite from you, just because I know you're very you love all
No.
things Star Wars. I know you're the guy that can't rank them.
No, this was the one that I just couldn't get into. I think we talked about it when we did the live show, that I don't like when they just kill off characters and like for a reaction, and they made the main character into like a bad guy, which I didn't like either because I really liked that actor and character, and I just felt like, I don't know, it was all over the place, and I didn't enjoy it.
Well, it's interesting to hear your take on it, because sometimes I respect your take on it. A lot of people said that they didn't like it, but I thought it was for different reasons. I think the reason why I liked it so much is because it was Jedi heavy, and I was just happy to see Jedi in action. I think my only complaint was that not enough aliens. Not enough alien Jedi in it, like we saw in the prequels, you know. But anyways,
well, I think also it's High Republic, and I tried to read the High Republic books. Like I read them and the comics for the first 2 years, and I didn't like those either. And those actually made me quit reading Star Wars novels and comics, was because of that series and because of the people writing. I just didn't like what they were doing, and so I think by extension, this show, you know, I had a bad experience with it as well, because that whole, you know, part of Star Wars just really irked me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like nowadays there's a little bit of something always irks somebody, understandably so. Now this too, you see these guys side by side, I think, you know, it doesn't really get better than this. I think I liked his portrayal of Lando more than I liked what's the first name?
Alden Ehrenreich?
Yes, I can never say his name either. It's slowly grown on me as Solo, but this I never had a complaint about when it started. You know,
I don't hate this, but I also, to me, like the performance in Solo, just it didn't remind me of the original performance at all. Like I just felt like he was talking a lot faster, and I don't know. I didn't really like to me. I felt like Alden was a better Solo than the Lando character was in this film. I didn't hate it, but I just felt like it was a very different character. I didn't connect it much with the original Lando.
Yeah, it's I think what happens is Star Wars becomes a bigger than life thing. And then when we see, God, everybody complained about the prequels when they came out. Now everybody loves the prequels. But when they first came out, man, people did not, it was not a popular fan vote by any means. And I think sometimes we forget about that because we celebrate those films now. But I think when we've seen the Book of Boba Fett get some hate, kind of same way the prequels did, maybe Solo get a little bit of that because it's a bigger than life thing. And when you want to go on and tell the story, sometimes you're Rogue One, sometimes you're Solo, a Star Wars story, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if Solo will get the same. I'm not sure if Solo will get the same treatment. Like maybe if they bring back those actors, like in a future series or something, then maybe that would help. I like Solo, but yeah, I'm not sure if it will get the same love that the prequels get, because the prequels are just, there's 3 of them and George made them, and it's just a bigger story than it is the Solo film, which I do like, but I don't know. I guess time will tell what will happen.
Yeah, time will tell. But, going back to the George era, here we have Masamita, played by David Bowers on the right, played by Jerome Blake on the left. Jerome Blake, who played a lot of characters in The Phantom Menace, who I really enjoyed hanging out with him in the early days of the convention circuit. He has not been in the Star Wars fan limelight in quite a while. David Bowers, I'm going to guess, probably another Australian actor. That's the reason for the replacement here. I do believe that these guys look different, even with the prosthetics on. Kind of like a Sacy Tin situation. But, we see a blue guy with 4 horns and we know it's him.
Yeah, like I didn't know. This is kind of, to me, this is in the same category as like the other Jedi that, the Stas Ali and all that. And it's just, I think it's just George was there and George didn't care, and so he just told them, like, he like, I could imagine the people making the movies like wanting to make it more consistent, and George just being like, no, we don't have the budget for that, and like we're not going to waste money flying someone out here when we can just get somebody here locally to do it cheaper.
Yeah, I was reading the interview with Lily, the girl that played Stas Ali in Attack of the Clones. She had said that she had went to film Revenge of the Sith. They had filmed her scenes. For some reason, it was cheaper to shoot Nina Fallon with the CGI blackface on than fly Lily out. Lily had said that some other Jedi were flown out. One more thought on that. George said that she didn't look like Adigalia. They created a new character. Or final thought, I should say. Nina Fallon looked nothing like Stas Ali. I think they should have really just replaced the fucking character. I really, really do. That fucking bothers me. That bothers me a lot. This one was great. This one was great. And you know what? How cool is this, right? We're gonna do an episode in the future about Star Wars actors that most of their scenes were removed, if not all of them. And in this situation, we have Mon Mothma on the left, who was filmed a shit ton for Revenge of the Sith. All her scenes were removed. Every last one of them. They bring her back. I just think that's brilliant. To me, that's like, hey, she was a great Mon Mothma when we were filming Sith. Let's bring her back for Revenge of the Sith. I mean, they could have recasted anybody because, again, Matthew, you have somebody that's not on screen, maybe like the situation that you had mentioned with the villain in Solo, but they didn't recast her; they kept her. To me, that's a very, very classy move. That's a very classy move to keep her in.
Yeah, I like that they had her, and I like that they also kept the same actors for Luke's, for Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, like that they kept them in Kenobi. Like there was a nice kind of connection between the prequels and some of those shows and films. I think that was really nice, even though obviously Mon Mothma didn't actually appear on screen in Revenge of the Sith. It was not, and obviously she's great at it, so they made the right choice, especially with season 2 of Andor. She's so good.
Yeah, she's an amazing actress, and again, we're going to talk about these actors and actresses where their scenes were, cut down. I mean, that would suck. That would suck if you were in that situation, especially in a Star Wars movie, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, Matthew, I'm gonna put you on a solo screen here because we're gonna do a little show and tell for those of you that are not part of the Patreon family. Please click the link in the description of this episode here, episode number 71. That'll give you free access. We do a segment called Inside the Wampa Cave, where I show pieces from my collection, and once in a while we do a little show and tell. Matthew, why don't you take it away here?
So yeah, Christian asked me to show something that I got from ICC Con this year, and so I've got my favorite thing I got was Roger Christian's book. We, of course, interviewed him and talked to him for quite a while, and that'll be, I think, on a future podcast episode. He was one of the people who produced the original film. He invented the lightsaber and made a lot of the props and things for the original film, basically with no budget and out of garbage parts and stuff like that. And he's still making films today. Like we interviewed him for quite a while, and then I went back to him the next day to get his book, and I talked to him again for like another half an hour. He was very talkative and had a lot to say, and he's still working on films today. Like part of the reason he was there selling his book was to raise money, for his current film that he's working on now. So he's still doing stuff, and he was so generous with his time, and he was very nice and kind. And I'm looking forward to seeing him again at that con we're going to go to next month or in 2 months in Texas. So that's my item. And so I bought his book, and he of course signed it for me as well. So that was nice.
Oh, what did he write in there for you?
It's just to Matthew with my best wishes. So
yeah, he was nice.
Oh, and I got the last copy. He had one left when I got to him, and I said, thankfully, it was still there.
Yeah, the interview we did with him was great. It was cut short. Again, go to mockverse.com, click under celebrities for all the heavy lifters, part of the Star Wars universe that have been on our show. You know what's funny, man? I still have a bag of swag from the last ICC con, which was in October.
From 2024?
Yeah, and I have a bag from 2025. You know what? I don't even know what to share. I'm going to share just the plethora for some of you guys that like patches. Just so many cool patches. Whether you get in a trade or you get in the scavenger hunt, like these here. Again, man, I've never, if you want to talk about swag heaven, to me, it's Nashville because the people at ICC Con are not snobs. I want to say my worst swag trade was Celebration in Chicago. It was like the Beverly Hills kids all went on vacation and they ended up in Chicago. I do want to share this. This is kind of a weird swag item here. This is a cigar that is still not completely dried up. It's still moist. I've not been keeping it in a humidor. Kevin Lyle would kill me for one, not giving this to him, and not smoking it by now. But it was funny. The guy is from Matthew. You're a fellow St. Pete alumni. It's from Ybor City.
Yeah, I did my bachelor's thesis was on cigar workers in Ybor City in the early 1900s.
Oh, no shit. That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. That's kind of like the cigar capital of the United States. Anyways, I want to smoke this so bad, and I should smoke it sooner than later. I just don't want to deal with cigar mouth the next day. But this was a very odd swag item. And he goes, yeah, I brought it from my hometown of Tampa, and of course, big Rays fan, big fan of St. Pete area. And you know what? I got to smoke that thing. I got to go on YouTube and find out how to preserve the moisture in a cigar. It's been sitting outside a humidor, but it's been in my basement. Hey, Matthew, thank you for this hour, and thank you for producing the show. It was a fun one here, and again, you guys, as Matthew mentioned, him and I will be covering Rebel Scum Con August 8th and 10th in the Dallas area. A lot of great actors. They're still announcing more. There's still hotels available. There's still tickets available. Matthew, we got to get on the swag committee for that one. I know the Boon to Eve is going to be happening there. Katie Sackhoff's got her podcast, live showdown there. It's going to be like a ICC encore, if you will. Yeah. And you brought it to my attention, along with somebody else did. Michael Havens is going to be making an announcement on the 4th of July, correct?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so yeah, I think he's going to be putting out the dates for next year.
I'm gonna put my money on May. It's going to be in May. I pray it's not over May 25th though. I think I had such a great time at Disney for my 50th. I'm going back there. I'm going back there for my 51st. So again, Matthew, thank you for everything that you do. I want to thank all you guys for tuning in on the playback. I want to thank you guys for your support in the Mocktails from the Cantina Patreon community, and all the producers as well. I could not do it without you. Here we are after all these years later, and obviously still geeking out about Star Wars and getting angry about some old recasting from yesteryear. So, hey, we'll catch you guys next time on another episode of Mocktails from the Cantina Live. So long, everybody.